Okay, a good Tavach, a good Chodesh. Today was the anniversary of the passing of Aaron HaKohen. It's the only person the Torah tells us the date of their passing. It says clearly in the Torah that we read today that Aaron HaKohen, Moshe ben his brother, passed away on on the first day of Av, and the um, the reason the Torah tells us the date of his passing is because his life and the message of his life is the antidote for the destruction of the temple. The Talmud says the reason the temple was destroyed was because of senseless hatred. People hated each other for no reason. And the reason that the temple will be rebuilt with the coming of Mashiach is because of going the opposite direction in generating positive feelings of Avos Yisrael for people which it seems that there'll be no reason to love them. This is something we learned specifically from Aaron HaKohen. Aaron HaKohen embodied this behavior. As the Torah tells us many stories about Aaron HaKohen, how he brought love in places that it seemed just didn't belong. As the Talmud famously says, that when Aaron would see someone making a mistake, a great mistake, he would hug the person and smile at them, and the person who would have made the mistake would like feel embarrassed. Why is Aaron hugging me? Why do I deserve that smile? And so Aaron HaKohen, by giving this person kindness and love, and the person seemingly didn't deserve that kindness, didn't deserve that love, that made the person want to deserve the love, made him want to be deserving of Hashem's kindness, deserving of Aaron's kindness. So the last time the Rebbe spoke, Le'zata, on this week's Torah portion, he spoke about where we are in history. We read in the Torah this morning about the 42 journeys of the Jewish people from Egypt to Israel, and how they just arrived at the border of Israel, right by the Jordan and the plains of Moab, and they're about to enter Israel. So the Rebbe said that in history, the Jewish people also took 42 journeys. Every person in a lifetime, the Baal Shem Tov says, takes 42 journeys. There are 42 journeys in every single day, says the Baal Shem Tov as well. So where are we in the 42 journeys? As the Jewish people, we are now in the plains of Moab. We're now by the Jordan. We're now about to enter Israel. So ordinarily, the way to look at the day of the anniversary of the passing of Aaron HaKohen is do kindness, give love in places which you think they don't deserve to have your love, don't deserve your kindness, to rectify the destruction of the temple. But the Rebbe said that the time we're in demands even more. The time we're in empowers us with more. Because we're so close to coming to Mashiach, because we already feel that we're already by the border of Israel, spiritually, historically. So it's not only about rectifying the cause of the exile, rectifying the cause of the destruction, the senseless hatred, and combating that with love, but it's more. We're already able to feel, the Rebbe says, the kind of love we will have when Mashiach will come, that we'll all be like one family. It's already possible to taste some of that now. The Talmud says that you're supposed to taste from the foods of Shabbos before Shabbos. So too, before the coming of Mashiach, we're supposed to taste of the coming of Mashiach. So Mashiach comes, we're going to learn the deep secrets of the Torah. So we're supposed to start learning the deep secrets of the Torah today as well. But another point is that when Mashiach comes, we're going to have such a love for each other that, like family and more. Family, everyone knows, and family can also be ups and downs. But when Mashiach comes, we'll have such a love for each other that that it's now time, the Rebbe says, to try to taste that, try to reach that. We're not trying to fight against something negative. Trying to get to something that's really positive. And just trying to get there already does something. Just trying to reach that place. I read a story today about the famous tzaddik Yitzchak Meir of Gur, the Chadush Arim, was traveling once with his attendant, Rabbunim and he are driving together in the wagon, and Rabbunim notices this guy is trailing behind the wagon. So the guy's running after the wagon, so he tells the wagon driver, can you slow down a little bit? But just at that moment, the Rebbe Meir is like, let's go fast. I like going fast. Why are you going slow? And the guy's running as fast as he can, and the wagons just take off. After 20 minutes, Rabbunim notices this guy is really he's still running after the wagon. He's all sweaty, he's all tired, he's red in the face, he's still trying to get to the wagon. So he tells the wagon driver, you gotta slow down. And again, this tzaddik says, don't slow down. I said I want to go fast. I like going fast. Why are you telling me to go slow down? He's like, this guy's trying to catch the wagon. I told the wagon driver to go slow because I want him to be able to catch us. So the tzaddik says, no, 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 don't slow down. I don't want anyone catching us. Let's just go. Why are you paying attention to this guy? They keep on going. And again, he notices a little while later, the guy has fallen down. He's completely overwhelmed from his trying to catch the wagon. And he fell down and he gets up the Rabbunim feel so bad for him. He says, slow down. And again, it's like, no, no, go as fast as you can. Finally, they get to the city, and this Rabbunim is really wondering why his Rebbe was so cruel. And Rabbi Yitzchak Meir Lusharim explained to him the following. The guy who was running after the wagon had passed away a long time before. But every so often, he's sent back to the world because he said this guy, in his lifetime, he had contact with the tzaddik of the generation, and he didn't listen to the tzaddik. And because he didn't listen to the tzaddik, so he is a rectification for his soul. He has to run after the tzaddik. And when he runs after the tzaddik and doesn't catch him, so that brings a tikkun to him. Since he didn't listen to the tzaddik when he was alive, so by him running after the tzaddik and he doesn't catch him, that already brings some kind of tikkun. That's a story. I was thinking also that this story may have a message for us, a spiritual message. There are some things that that even if you're not on that level, but trying to reach that level already does something. Like Rebbe is talking about loving each other like family. And even if you're not on that level, but just pursuing that, thinking about that's where we are, looking at that, and looking at the time we're in now as being possible to be that way, it changes the context of how you go around your life. I know two people which a lot of enmity to each other. And one of them said, he told me, like, the reason they have enmity to each other is public knowledge. Some major issue that one did to the other, and whether justified, not justified. And the guy who was hurt, he said to me, but because we're supposed to be like family, as the Rebbe says, before Mashiach comes, I'm able to move past it a little bit. So he didn't really reach love for his fellow, in an extraordinary way, but he was able to have some direction. He was able to calibrate where he should be with where he was because of knowing where we're supposed to be. I don't remember if I shared the story with you or not, but it's a story worth repeating. Nissim Mangel Zaying just shared the story about Rabbi Nissen Talushkin. Nissen Talushkin was a prominent rabbi living in New York in 1946, and he wanted an audience with the previous Rebbe to ask him one question. The question was, why hadn't Mashiach come yet? It was after the Holocaust, he expected Mashiach to come. Why didn't Mashiach come? So he comes into the previous Rebbe's room, and as soon as he comes in the room, the question evaporates. He doesn't have a question anymore. And he goes out of the room, and again he has the question. And so he asked Rabbi Simpson for some. I did share the story last week. I asked Rabbi Simpson, "Can I go in again? I want to ask Rebbe a question. Please let me have an audience to Rebbe." Rabbi Simpson said, "Yeah, go in again," which is very unusual. Never happens that an audience twice in one day with the Rebbe, with the previous Rebbe. He goes in again, and he comes in the Rebbe's room, And again, he sees the Rebbe, he feels the presence of Hashem, the presence of Mashiach, whatever he felt. He's like, there is no question. Why is Mashiach coming? He feels Mashiach. So he didn't have the question. That's the story. And I think, again, that just realizing where we are, is looking at where we're meant to be in history, in this time of absolute love for each other, even though we're not necessarily there, knowing what the reality of where we are is, looking at what the Rebbe says about where we are, that gives us a little bit of a context of it lifts us up a little bit, lifts us up a little bit away from the things in our life that are trivial. When Aaron HaKohen passed away, there were 80,000 children named Aaron that followed his casket. The reason they were following his casket and why they all were called Aaron was because while he was alive, there were a lot of couples that didn't get along with each other, and they were considering separating from each other. And Aaron brought them back together. And because he brought them back together, they were able to have children, and they named their child after the one who brought them back together, Aaron. So there's 80,000 couples who had children named Aaron because of his effort to bring people back together. That's what Aaron was. Rabbi Beryl Baumgarten, in his yeshiva, he noticed that there was a boy smoking on Shabbos. He didn't really know what to do. It wasn't very common in the yeshiva to have people breaking Shabbos in public like that. And although the boy tried to hide a little bit, everyone knew about it. He wasn't sure what to do. Should he ignore it? Should he talk to him? So should he kick him out? So he shouldn't be a bad influence on other boys. So he asked the Rebbe what to do. And the Rebbe told him, you should read chapter 12 of Avos Reb Nosson. What does it say in chapter 12 of Avos Reb Nosson? It says over there, the story mentioned before about Aaron. When Aaron saw someone making a mistake, what would he do? He would show them extra love, he'd show them extra kindness. And that's what evaporated the negative tendencies this person had. That's the message of today of Aaron HaKohen, to extend love and to connect with the love of our fellow Jew and connect with the future of the coming Mashiach when we all feel like family. There was a chassid of the Rebbe named Rabbi Avram Lisan who would have put on film with people in the bus station in Israel. And there was a gentleman who came from a very religious family, but for whatever reason, religion didn't speak to him anymore, and he left Judaism. And he made it, and in his travels, he met Rabbi Avram Lisan on a Friday afternoon. He's putting on film with people. He goes, "Come, put on film." The boy's like, "I don't want to put on film." He knew exactly what it was. He was from a religious family. I don't want to do it. Rabbi Lisan's like, "Listen, I'm an old man. Do me a favor. I feel like I'm standing here for nothing. Do me a favor. Let me just put on film with you so I should feel good." The boy's like, okay, that struck something in him. He has, Talmud says there are three signs of the Jewish people, and one of the signs is kindness and mercy. So it wasn't about the connection to Hashem that mattered, but you'll help this old guy. All right, I'll do you a favor. He puts on that film. Fascinating thing happens. The boy and Rabbi and the son become very close, and the boy comes closer to Judaism again. Now his father was very outspoken about his criticism of the Rebbe, but his son coming back to Judaism was something that, as a objective human being, he thought the Rebbe deserves his thanks, and he traveled to the Rebbe to thank the Rebbe for sending his emissaries around the world and bring his own son back to Hashem, back to Torah, back to mitzvahs, back to him. But he still was bothered. He said, "But why is it that you guys reach out to people like this? Where does it come from? Doesn't the Torah say that there are certain people you're supposed to push away?" That's what he understood from the Torah. He felt a legitimate question. Parenthetically, it's interesting teaching the Chassam Sofer. The Talmud says there's two reasons why the temple was destroyed. One place the Talmud says temple was destroyed because people only did the bare minimum and didn't go beyond what the law requires. That's what it says in one place in the Talmud. Another place in the Talmud it says that the reason the temple was destroyed, as I mentioned, because of senseless hatred. People hate each other for no reason. The problem is the author of both teachings are the same. Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai, he said both teachings. So which one was it? Was it because of senseless hatred, or was it because we were only doing the bare minimum of the Torah and we weren't going beyond? So Chassam Sofer says that the Torah was talking about people who distance others because they find legitimate reasons in the Torah. They don't want to extend their love for a fellow Jew because they find reason why you're not supposed to love them, and they look at the reason not to love them as their guiding light in life. In other words, they say, "I want to fulfill the Torah. There's a mitzvah of loving your fellow like a Jew, but I could exempt myself from this mitzvah based upon what I study, based upon my experience. This person, according to the Torah, doesn't deserve love. He is one of those people who are meant to be pushed away. I know this from the Torah." That's how the Sam Surfer explains the connection. They had senseless hatred based on Torah. They said the Torah justifies this kind of hatred. The Torah justifies me to ostracize this person. That's how it was based on Torah. Someone once asked the previous Rebbe, I'll get back to the story in a second. Someone asked the previous Rebbe, who was known also for extending love to people that it seems the Torah says not to love. And he told the previous Rebbe in the code of Jewish law, the kind of person that you are bringing closer to you is someone the Torah says to have a distance from. How dare you do this? Is against the Torah. So previous Rebbe responded. It sounds like a tongue-in-cheek response, but it's really profound. He said to him, the section in the Code of Jewish Law you're referring to is at the very end of the Code of Jewish Law. So if you want to understand that section, you have to read the entire Code of Jewish Law before. To understand what that section means, you have to read the entire Code of Jewish Law. It's not just code of tongue-in-cheek. It's an ignorant thing. It's ignorance that makes us interpret things just to suit our comfort zone. We do what we feel we're in the mood of, and therefore we interpret the Torah to be that way. But a true student of Torah, someone who really is diligent in the study of Torah and looking for the truth, wouldn't interpret the Torah that way. That's what the previous Rebbe said. Getting back to our story, so Rabbi Eli's son had brought this person back to Hashem and to Torah, and his father asked the Rebbe, "But aren't you not supposed to do this?" So Rebbe said to him, "But what about you? Didn't you pray for your son to come back home? Didn't you pray for your son to come closer to God and to Judaism? You were angry at your son's behavior, upset about it, but you prayed for him because he's your child." Rebbe said that every Jew to Hashem and to the Rebbe is like an only child. You felt the pain, the Rebbe says, of a child going away. You felt the joy of your father of the child coming back home to you. The Rebbe said, I feel the same kind of pain of every Jew when he distances himself from Torah, and I feel the same joy when he comes back. That's the Rebbe didn't say anything novel. He just said the truth of how he felt, and the truth is of how we will feel when Mashiach comes, how we're family. When you realize that we're family, it's a whole different kind of perspective. There are all kinds of of ways of interpreting things. When you realize it's your family, you look at it differently. There was a Jew named Yosef. I read the story in the Sichas HaShavua, who survived the Holocaust, and he managed to make it to Switzerland, and he got a word that his father had also survived World War II, also survived the Holocaust, and he was living in some Arab country. And he got his father's address, and he sent his father a letter, and he got a letter back from his father. Yes, I'm alive. This is my address. So he decided he's going to go visit his father. He's going to get on a boat. He's going to visit his father. He's going to visit that far off country. But although he wasn't a chassid, but he decided to visit. I hope I'm pronouncing this right. A tzaddik who also miraculously survived World War II, Ram Nachum Mendel of Stropkov. Nachum Stropkov was living in Pressburg, and he, together with other Jews, managed to survive by hiding in a bunker in Pressburg. And he, after the war, was living in Switzerland, and so he met this Yosef, and Yosef told him, I'm planning to go on this boat to take a trip to visit my father, and I also want a blessing for a shidduch. I want a blessing that I should meet my future spouse. And I feel he tells the Rebbe that I'm going to find my future spouse down there in this Arab country. So Remendel says to him, "Don't go, don't take the trip. Your shidduch, your soulmate is here." Parenthetically, a friend of mine, he asked the Rebbe once about traveling. His parents wanted him to travel to meet a prospective idea for a shidduch. And Ebb responded that in the Talmud we find different ways that people meet each other. Sometimes a person travels to meet their spouse, and sometimes their spouse comes to meet them. So Rebbe said, if your son wants to be of those who travel to meet their spouse, he could travel. In other words, there are other ways this can happen. Either way, so getting back to our story, so this tzaddik, Mendel Strapkov, says, don't travel. Your bashert, your soulmate is here. He wasn't such a chassid, and he decided he's going to go anyways. So he's in Switzerland, and he passes by this jewelry store, and he sees this nice watch, and he decides he wants to buy this watch as a gift for his father. He had some minimum amount of money, and he decides he's going to spend all of his money to get this watch, give his father a gift. But he was short a few dollars, $50. So the owner is like, you could pay me next time. We'll make a bill of sale, and I'll trust you. You owe me $50. All right. Next day, he's supposed to take this boat to go to visit his father, and he gets arrested on the pier, and he's taken to custody. And what was his crime? His crime was he's escaping the country for not paying his debt. He's escaping the country without paying a debt he had. How dare he leave the country? He said, what are you talking about? I was planning to come back. Make a long story short, he ended up having to present himself in court, and the judge, erased the whole sentence. It was a total mistake. There was no reason to arrest him. He wasn't escaping. It's ridiculous. But he missed the boat. He missed the boat, and he had to now find another boat. And so he scheduled and found another boat going, and he is about to get on the boat. And who does he see on the pier? He sees his father, but he's sure it's hallucination because his father, he knows, his father got a letter back from his father, and his father's handwriting. He's not here, but he is here. That's his father. So he's like shocked, and he goes over to him. It's his father. Dad, what are you doing here? His father said, I wanted to see my son. You told me where you are. I said, I'm going to come here to see you. So Baruch Hashem, he came to see his father. I mean, his father came to see him. They stayed. He didn't have to travel. So they're living now in Switzerland, and they go back to Ramendlo Strapkov, and they tell him the story. They tell him about your instruction. We didn't know what it meant, and now it turns out that like I didn't have to travel. So Mendel said, the reason I told you not to travel is because your bashert, your soulmate, is here, and you need to find her here. And sure enough, Baruch Hashem, that's what happened. He found the soulmate there. A lot of times, people meet people, and they don't really make the move to get married because they're always thinking maybe, 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 instead of thinking this person actually could be the one I am meant to marry. And when you have that kind of picture of divine providence, like this might be the one, you approach things differently. It's a whole different way of approaching things when you feel this person might be my soulmate. In a similar way, we know that every mitzvah brings light to the world, and eventually there's going to be a mitzvah that will tip the scale and bring Mashiach. But what makes us excited is by thinking this actually could be the mitzvah. And when you look at the world it's on a scale, it's on a balance, and this mitzvah can make it happen, then it's a paradigm shift. It changes things. A friend of mine told me this story this week. He was hesitant about going into a project to raise a lot of funds for a building, and but he decided this is the right thing to do. He's going to go all the way into it. He put himself into it, and he wrote a letter to the Rebbe. He opened up the Rebbe's letters. He was planning that day to visit a certain individual to help him with this project. And he opened the Rebbe's letters. And the page opens up to has this person's name on the page. Is this person will certainly help you in this project. So he brought the letter to this individual, and he showed him what the Rebbe said. And this guy says, "I'm telling you." The guy says, "I'm going to give enough to secure the building. Don't worry about it. You do what you could do, but I'm going to make sure it happens." So what what opened up this guy to go all the way was I think that the rabbi who approached him, he felt this is the mitzvah. This is what Hashem wants me to do, and that's what caused a response of the other person. Like, yeah, this is what Hashem wants me to do. So that's, I think, the focus that has to be now in these last days before the 9th of Av, as we're approaching the time of the birth of Mashiach. Mashiach was born on the 9th of Av. We are adding in our yearning for the coming Mashiach. We have to really feel, as the Torah says, all the signs of the Torah point to our time being time Mashiach, to really feel it, that actually, if I study about the Beis HaMikdash, it builds the Beis HaMikdash. It actually will make it happen. And then we approach things with a different kind of energy. This mitzvah, this moment spent studying Torah, it does something. You feel it does something. It gives you Mashiach-tic energy. It makes a Mashiach-tic energy, and then the mitzvah is done with a different feeling, and then it has a different kind of impact. L'chaim, which I can see, as it says in the Talmud, when the Av enters, we have to add in, it says to decrease in joy. The Chassidic masters say, how do you decrease in joy? By adding in joy, you decrease all matters of the month of Av. Av is a month when all the calamities happen. Mishenichnas Av, when Av enters, and we decrease in Av. How do we decrease in Av? By adding in joy, in the way the Torah says to add in joy, through Torah and Tefillah and Staka and Simcha in the mitzvahs that Hashem gives us in this time, because these days are going to be the happiest days of the year. These are these days of the 9 days will be the most joyous days. So since we're so close to coming Mashiach, just like I mentioned before, if the already taste of the love we're going to have Mashiach comes, we also have to taste of the joy we're going to have Mashiach comes during these 9 days, in ways the Torah says to add in joy by finishing books of Talmud. The Talmud says that becomes a day of joy, to bring out the inner joy of these days that we will immediately experience coming Mashiach, and Hashem should help us, should see it immediately. A good davach and a taka afrei lechavach.
Okay, fine. Thanks.